You either shatter or finally stop caring. The decision is in your hands. What if the version of you that's suffering right now isn't breaking? It's being replaced. What if everything hurting you is actually preparing you for a life you're still too afraid to imagine? Keep listening. Before we begin, welcome to Pure Stoic Practice, the channel dedicated to self-mastery, clarity, strength, and personal transformation. Hello, everyone. If you want to keep learning, growing, and becoming the strongest version of yourself, make sure you follow the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any new lessons. And if this message resonates with you, please subscribe to support the channel so I can continue creating powerful videos like this for you. The truth about kindness. You think kindness will save you. You think keeping your heart open, staying gentle, offering understanding even when it drains you, will somehow create a shield around your life. You think the world will see your goodness, recognize your intentions, and return it to you with the same sincerity. But deep down, you already know that's not how things work. The world doesn't protect the gentle. It breaks them first. It tests them hardest. It teaches them the cruelest lessons, not because they deserve pain, but because they never learned how to defend themselves from it. And that's where your quiet suffering begins. Not in the moments when someone harms you, but in the moments when you hope that by being good, the harm will stop. It never does. And today, you're going to understand why. Now let's return to the truth you've avoided for far too long. Your kindness was never the problem. Your expectations were. Kindness without strength is a trap. Kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal. And kindness without clarity becomes an open invitation for the world to take more than you have to give. You've felt this. You've lived it. You've watched yourself shrink to accommodate people who never cared about your comfort. You've softened your voice, lowered your needs, suppressed your emotion, and convinced yourself that patience would earn you the respect you deserved. But instead of respect, you received silence. Instead of appreciation, you received convenience. Instead of loyalty, you received betrayal disguised as innocence. This is the uncomfortable truth. The world doesn't reward a good heart, it rewards a strong one. And until your good heart is backed by a spine that does not bend, people will continue to treat your kindness as softness, your softness as weakness, and your weakness as opportunity. But here's the twist. This pain you're carrying, the quiet ache that sits behind your ribs every time you think about what you've given and how little you've received, that pain is not a punishment. It's a turning point. It is life pushing you toward a version of yourself you were always meant to grow into. And that version is not colder, harsher, or heartless. It is clearer, stronger, sharper, a person who knows exactly who they are, what they deserve, and where their boundaries begin and end. You need to understand something essential. People don't hurt you because you're good. They hurt you because you never told them where to stop. You tried to earn respect through sacrifice, when respect only comes through strength. You lowered your standards because you believed it would bring harmony, when in reality, it only taught people how to take advantage of you. You believed that understanding someone's pain would prevent them from causing yours. But empathy without limits turns into self-destruction. You've been trying to survive life with the wrong tools. You've been fighting storms with an open palm instead of a closed fist. You've been hoping that the world would be gentle simply because you are. But the world does not operate by the laws of your heart. It operates by the laws of power, clarity, and consequence. The moment people realize that hurting you carries no cost, they will continue to do it, not because they're evil, but because nothing stops them. This is where your transformation begins. You must anchor yourself in purpose, your purpose, not the purpose of pleasing others, not the purpose of keeping peace at your own expense, not the purpose of being someone's emotional cushion or spiritual bandage. Your purpose is self-respect, self-preservation, and self-mastery. You need clarity about who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. You need a long-term vision of the kind of life you want to build. One where your time, your energy, and your compassion are spent on people who deserve access to you. Purpose anchoring means understanding that your strength isn't a tool you use against others. It's a tool you use to protect what matters: your mental stability, your emotional balance, your peace, your dignity. Every decision you make must align with these values. And every person you allow into your life must respect these values. Because once you become clear about your identity, your boundaries stop being walls. You become the wall. But clarity without disciplined energy collapses quickly. You need rituals and routines that reinforce your inner power every single day. This is where disciplined energy enters your life, not as an abstract idea, but as a practice. You wake up with intention. You speak with intention. You respond with intention. You protect your energy with intention. You learn to pause when you feel overwhelmed. You learn to breathe before reacting. You learn to observe before speaking. You create daily habits that build your strength from the inside out. Journaling, silence, movement, reflection, solitude, whatever sharpens your mind and strengthens your spirit. Because strength is not an emotion, it is a discipline. Most people treat strength like a moment of courage. They wait for it, they hope for it, they try to summon it when needed. But real strength is built like a muscle. You train it, you practice it, you repeat it until it becomes who you are. And when strength becomes your baseline, not your mood, your entire life changes. Here's the part no one tells you. Once you begin this transformation, the world will react. People who once controlled you through guilt will panic when they realize guilt no longer works. People who once manipulated you with silence will crumble when they realize silence no longer scares you. People who once relied on your availability will pull back when they realize you are no longer emotionally free for everyone. And this is where your new identity begins to take shape. You become someone who is no longer moved by empty words. You become someone who no longer fears walking away. You become someone who no longer needs external approval to make internal decisions. You become someone whose kindness is protected by strength, not diminished by it. And people feel that. They feel it in the way you speak fewer words, but speak them with more weight. They feel it in the way you no longer rush to explain yourself. They feel it in the way your silence grows heavier, not weaker. They feel it when your presence commands respect without demanding it. They feel it when they understand, maybe for the first time, that you are no longer the version of yourself they once took for granted. This is the moment your life splits into two versions. The one you were and the one you are becoming. The one you were survived by hoping. The one you are becoming thrives by choosing. The one you were avoided, conflict. The one you are becoming enforces boundaries. The one you are feared, being misunderstood. The one you are becoming no longer needs to be understood. And when you reach that point, when you embrace clarity, purpose, and disciplined energy, your kindness becomes something entirely different. It becomes deliberate. It becomes discerning. It becomes reserved for people who honor it. And that is when your kindness finally stops hurting you and starts empowering you. If you are ready to step into that version of yourself, then stay until the end of this video. Because what comes next is not just advice. It is the blueprint for becoming someone the world cannot break anymore. Betrayal and wake up. You've been carrying a wound that no one sees, but you feel it every day. It's that sharp, hollow pain that surfaces whenever you think about someone you trusted, someone you opened your heart to, someone you believed would never turn against you. And yet they did. Betrayal has a way of cutting deeper than any physical injury. Not because of what was done, but because of what it revealed. It shows you the truth about people, truth you weren't ready to see, truth you hoped wasn't real, truth that forces you to confront parts of yourself you've avoided for far too long. And as much as you wish you could erase the memory, you know it changed you, it broke something inside you. But maybe that break wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something you were meant to grow into. You've asked yourself 1,000 times, why did they do it? Why did they hurt me when all I offered was loyalty? Why did they choose to take advantage of my softness, my effort, my honesty? But the more you search for the why, the deeper the confusion becomes. Because betrayal rarely makes sense. It is rarely logical, and it is almost never personal. Betrayal is simply the act of someone choosing themselves at the expense of you, because they knew they could. They knew you wouldn't push back. They knew you wouldn't enforce consequences. They knew you would forgive before they even apologized. They knew your heart was open and unprotected. And in a world where opportunity matters more than morality, open hearts become targets. That realization stings, but it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of your awakening. You weren't betrayed because you were weak. You were betrayed because you underestimated the importance of boundaries. You assumed your loyalty would inspire loyalty in return. You assumed your honesty would be mirrored in others. You assumed your kindness would be met with gratitude. But assumptions are the root of heartbreak. And betrayal is the moment you realize that not everyone lives by the rules you follow. Not everyone understands the language of your heart. Not everyone values what you give. Betrayal is the moment you see the world without illusions. Pain forces clarity. Clarity forces growth. Growth forces transformation. There is a moment right after betrayal when the world feels unsteady. You question your worth. You question your instincts. You question whether your heart is flawed, whether you're too trusting, too naive, too hopeful for your own good. But here is the truth you must hold on to. Betrayal is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you are human. People with genuine hearts are always the ones who suffer the deepest wounds, not because they deserve the pain, but because they love without holding back. And that is not a flaw. That is a strength waiting to be refined. But the refinement begins with a decision. You can let betrayal harden you into someone bitter, closed, guarded, and fearful. Or you can let it sharpen you into someone wiser, stronger, and more grounded. Someone who sees clearly without becoming cynical. Someone who knows how to love without losing themselves. Someone who understands that being good does not mean being unprotected. This is the turning point. This is where everything shifts. The pain you feel right now is giving you two choices. Either repeat the cycle or break it. And breaking it begins with understanding what betrayal is truly trying to teach you. It is not teaching you to hate people. It is teaching you to stop abandoning yourself. It is not teaching you to distrust everyone. It is teaching you to trust your intuition when something feels wrong. It is teaching you to stop shrinking your expectations to accommodate people who refuse to rise to your level. It is teaching you that your heart deserves the same loyalty you so freely give away. And most importantly, it is teaching you that you must protect yourself, not from love, but from the people who use the name of love to hide their intentions. Betrayal wakes the dormant parts of you. It forces you to see what you ignored. It forces you to confront what you tolerated. It forces you to recognize the moments when you silenced your voice just to keep someone close. It forces you to acknowledge the places where you lowered your standards, excused their behavior, or justified their lack of effort. It forces you to admit that you saw the red flags, but chose to paint them white because you cared, but now you see clearly. Betrayal does not break you. It breaks the illusions you lived under, and once those illusions fall away, you can finally see the truth of who you are and what you deserve. This pain is purifying you. This pain is refining your identity. This pain is carving out the strongest version of you, one who refuses to repeat the patterns that wounded them. The moment you stop trying to understand why they hurt you, and instead begin asking how you will rise from it, your power returns. Betrayal becomes less of a wound and more of a doorway. You no longer waste your nights replaying conversations, imagining different outcomes, wondering what you could have done differently. You begin to understand that their actions were about them, not you. Their choices came from their character, not your inadequacy. Their betrayal was a reflection of their values, not your worth. And as this understanding grows, something extraordinary happens. The weight begins to lift. You stop blaming yourself. You stop chasing closure. You stop craving explanations. You stop needing apologies. You stop keeping space for people who never honored the space you held for them. In that moment, you reclaim your power, not by becoming cold, but by becoming clear, not by shutting the world out, but by refusing to let anyone walk into your life without earning their place, not by fearing connection, but by choosing it with intention. This is where you rise. This is where you reinvent. This is where you become the version of yourself who cannot be broken by the same wounds ever again. And when that version of you emerges, steady, awake, grounded, the betrayal that once crushed you becomes the exact moment that remade you. Because betrayal didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It showed you where your strength must grow. It showed you where your boundaries must strengthen. It showed you what kind of person you must become to protect the heart you have. And once you embrace that evolution, you will never fear betrayal again. Not because it cannot happen, but because you will never allow it to define you. This is your turning point. And from here, everything changes. Boundaries and inner strength. You've spent most of your life believing that strength was something external, something loud, visible, forceful, something that lived in the hands or the voice of those who dominate every room they walk into. You thought strength required aggression, confrontation, or the kind of hardness that leaves no room for softness. But a real strength, the kind that protects you, the kind that transforms you, the kind that changes the way the world treats you, does not come from raising your voice. It comes from raising your standards. It comes from the quiet, deliberate courage to decide what you will and will not allow into your life. It comes from the calm firmness of someone who has seen their own breaking point and chosen not to return to it. Inner power does not look like what most people imagine. It does not shout, demand, or threaten. Inner power isn't built in silence. It matures in solitude, and it reveals itself not through force, but through presence, through the way you hold yourself, the way you don't sway under pressure, the way you no longer tolerate what once drained you, the way your energy becomes too steady to be manipulated by anyone's expectations, moods, or intentions. But inner power has a foundation, and that foundation is boundaries. Not the kind that are spoken half-heartedly, not the kind that collapse the moment someone pushes back. Boundaries that are lived, boundaries that are enforced, boundaries that are woven into your identity so deeply that violating them is no longer possible. Not because you fight harder, but because you've learned to walk away without hesitation. To understand boundaries, you first have to understand yourself. And that's something most people avoid. They avoid it because self-knowledge comes with responsibility. When you know who you are, you can no longer pretend you're lost. When you know what you want, you can no longer accept what insults your soul. When you know what drains you, you can no longer justify allowing it into your life. Self-awareness is the beginning of all strength because it removes the shield of ignorance you once hid behind. It forces you to confront the truth of your life, what you have allowed, who you have allowed, and why it has hurt you. Boundaries begin the moment you acknowledge that your peace is not something the world will protect for you. It is something you must protect from the world. But this protection doesn't start with the people who hurt you. It starts with you. It starts with recognizing the subtle ways you've abandoned yourself to keep others comfortable. How many times have you silenced your needs so someone else could feel at ease? How many times have you allowed disrespect because you feared conflict more than you valued dignity? How many times have you let exhaustion be the price you pay for appearing kind, understanding, or easygoing? Inner power demands that you stop betraying yourself in the name of harmony. Harmony that costs your peace is just another form of violence against yourself. The shift begins when you realize that boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling access to you. They are not about building walls. They are about creating clarity. They are not about rejection. They are about selection. You are not pushing people away. You are choosing which people deserve to stay. And this choice is the first expression of true inner strength. There will always be people who push against your limits. Not because they misunderstand you, but because they understood you too well. They recognized that you had no real boundaries, that your lines were drawn in sand, not stone, that you feared disappointment more than you feared self-disrespect. These are the people who took your patience as permission and your silence as surrender. But once your boundaries become real, once they become non-negotiable, those same people will either adjust or disappear. And both outcomes are victories. Inner power teaches you not to negotiate your worth. It teaches you that you don't need to argue with someone to prove your value. You don't need to plead for understanding. You don't need to convince anyone why you deserve better treatment. People who deserve you will understand without explanation. People who don't understand don't deserve the explanation. This is where power begins. when your energy stops pouring into people who refuse to rise to the level of your honesty. Boundaries also redefine your emotional world. Most of your pain has not come from what people did to you. It has come from what you allowed because you didn't believe you had the right to say no. You tolerated inconsistency because you thought loyalty meant endurance. You accepted half-effort because you believed love meant patience. You stayed silent because you confused peace with avoidance. But inner power clarifies the difference. Real peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the absence of disrespect. Real loyalty is not staying when you're undervalued. It is staying true to yourself even when others fail you. Real love is not sacrificing your needs. It is honoring them. Boundaries are the tools that make these truths possible. When you finally learn to say no without guilt, your yes becomes meaningful again. When you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and over-tolerating, your presence gains weight. When you no longer respond to everything that demands your attention, your energy becomes selective, intentional, sacred, and people feel that sacredness. They feel it in the pauses between your words. They feel it when you no longer rush to rescue them. They feel it when you finally allow them to experience the natural consequences of their choices. That is the essence of inner power, understanding that you are not responsible for carrying people through that storms they create. You're not obligated to teach people how to treat you. You demonstrated it through your actions. You demonstrated it through what you allow. You demonstrated it through what you refuse to allow again. Inner power is not cruel. It is clear. It does not punish. It protects. It does not harden you. It strengthens you. You become someone who does not flinch under pressure, who does not crumble when confronted, who does not absorb every emotion that enters the room. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop explaining and start embodying the standards you once whispered to yourself at night. This transformation is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not something you broadcast. True inner power is always quiet, almost invisible, until the moment it is tested. And when it is, the world sees a version of you it never expected. Grounded, firm, steady, unshakable. A version of you that does not apologize for protecting your peace. A version of you that does not collapse just because someone else disapproves. A version of you that no longer fears losing people because you have finally stopped losing yourself. Boundaries turn your inner world into a sanctuary, one where your heart can rest, your mind can breathe, and your spirit can rebuild itself without the noise of those who once drained you. And in that sanctuary, strength grows, not the kind that needs to prove itself, but the kind that simply exists because you no longer abandon your own soul. This is the essence of inner power, choosing yourself with consistency, with clarity, and without apology. And once you build this power, the world can no longer touch you the way it once did. You are no longer moved by manipulation. You are no longer softened by guilt. You are no longer controlled by fear. You become someone who stands firmly in their truth. And that is a kind of strength that the world cannot bend. Detachment and validation. You don't realize how much of your life has been shaped, not by your values, not by your boundaries, not even by your goals, but by the quiet, relentless hunger for validation. It's a craving that hides in your words, your choices, your relationships, and even the way you carry yourself. You don't ask for approval out loud, but you feel the emptiness when it doesn't come. You don't beg for acceptance directly, but you ache when someone withholds it. You don't say you need recognition, yet you feel invisible when others fail to notice your effort. This hunger has shaped you more than you want to admit. And every time you deny it, it only grows stronger, pulling you further away from who you really are. Validation is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It slips into your decisions. It whispers into your self-worth. It convinces you to speak softer, to shrink smaller, to hold back your truth, because you fear someone might not approve. You start measuring yourself by reactions, reading people's faces like mirrors, letting their emotions dictate your identity. You begin to believe that being liked is a form of security, and being understood is proof of worth. So you bend, you compromise, you over-explain, you shape-shift. And with each small adjustment, you drift a little farther from yourself. This is the invisible trap, the belief that you must earn your place in people's lives. You think the more you give, the more they'll value you. The more agreeable you are, the more they'll keep you. The more you sacrifice, the more you'll matter. But that's not how respect works. That's how dependency works. That's how emotional exhaustion forms. That's how you train the world to treat you as optional while you treat everyone else as essential. Detachment is the antidote to this trap. Not coldness, not indifference, not apathy, but the quiet, steady understanding that your worth is not something another person can give or take away. Detachment is the art of standing firmly in yourself, even when someone else pulls away. It's the strength to say, I am enough, even if you do not see it. It's the courage to walk through life without needing every room to accept you. And it is one of the hardest spiritual disciplines a human being can learn. Because the truth is, you've been conditioned to believe that validation equals safety. From childhood, every smile, every praise, every nod taught you that approval is the currency of belonging. And now, as an adult, you still seek that currency, even from people who do not deserve the power to approve or reject you. You allow strangers' opinions to haunt you. You allow someone's disappointment to dictate your decisions. You allow the fear of being misunderstood to silence your truth. You allow the fear of not being liked to make you tolerate things that violate your peace. But the moment you detach from validation, something extraordinary begins to unfold. You stop negotiating your authenticity just to keep someone comfortable. You stop censoring your voice to avoid conflict. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop performing for acceptance, like your soul is an audition. Instead, you begin to choose differently, steadily, quietly, intentionally. Detachment doesn't tell you to stop caring about people. It tells you to stop sacrificing yourself for the sake of being cared about. It tells you that love without self-respect is just dependency disguised as devotion. It tells you that if someone's approval can make you, then their absence can break you. And that is not freedom. Detachment frees you from the emotional chains you didn't know you were bound by. The fear of rejection loses its power over you because you finally understand that not every disconnect is a loss. Sometimes it is liberation. The fear of disappointment fades because you realize that someone else's reaction is not a measurement of your worth. The need to explain yourself vanishes because you're no longer seeking to be understood by people who are never trying to understand you in the first place. When validation loses its grip on you, people lose their ability to manipulate you. And this is where life quietly but profoundly transforms. You begin to make decisions without waiting for permission. You begin to say no without spiraling into guilt. You begin to hold your boundaries without fearing backlash. You begin to speak truth without trembling. You begin to value silence over pleasing. You begin to value your peace over participation. You begin to value your identity over anyone's interpretation of it. People will feel this shift. Some will be threatened by it. Some will distance themselves. Some will test you to see if your newfound strength is real or temporary. Some will call you difficult, selfish, stubborn, changed. But anyone who benefits from your lack of boundaries will interpret your growth as betrayal. And that is the clearest sign that the growth is necessary. Detachment does not destroy relationships. It purifies them. When you no longer play the role of the pleaser, the fixer, the healer, the overgiver, the emotional sponge, you will see which relationships were built on genuine respect and which ones were built on how useful you could be. The ones who truly value you will adapt to the new version of you because they were never attached to your weakness. They were connected to your soul. The ones who are exploiting your need for validation will fall away because they can no longer use your fear of rejection to their advantage. And for the first time in your life, you feel a kind of peace that isn't dependent on someone else's mood. You feel a kind of clarity that isn't clouded by hopes of being liked. You feel a kind of strength that doesn't disappear when someone disapproves of your choices. You feel grounded, not because the world treats you well, but because you finally treat yourself well. This is the real meaning of inner freedom, when you are no longer emotionally enslaved by the reactions of others. When your day is not destroyed by someone's silence, when your sense of worth is not inflated or deflated by someone's attention, when your identity is no longer shaped by what you think people think of you, when you stop treating people's opinions like mirrors and start treating your values like anchors. The fewer people you allow to influence your emotions, the more powerful you become. And this is why detachment is not just emotional maturity, it is spiritual awakening. It is the recognition that your life is too sacred to be shaped by every passing judgment, every shifting opinion, every temporary person. It is the realization that your purpose does not depend on applause. Your truth does not need validation. Your peace does not require universal approval. Your worth does not fluctuate with someone else's inability to see it. You have spent too many years giving your power away piece by piece, seeking permission to feel enough, waiting for someone to confirm your worth, hoping to be chosen, praying to be liked. You abandon yourself every time you changed your identity to fit someone's expectations. You betrayed yourself every time you tolerated energy that drained you. You dimmed your own light every time you feared it would intimidate someone who only felt comfortable when you were small. Now is the moment you reclaim what you lost. You reclaim your decisions. You reclaim your emotional stability. You reclaim your voice. You reclaim your boundaries. You reclaim your identity. You reclaim your worth. And in doing so, you become someone impossible to manipulate, impossible to destabilize, impossible to diminish. When validation no longer controls you, you become a person who can stand alone without collapsing. A person who can love without losing themselves. A person who can walk away without breaking. A person who can speak truth without fear of rejection. Detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-respect within love. Detachment is not the absence of connection. It is the presence of discernment within connection. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of mastery within emotion. You stop needing the world to hold you because you finally learned how to hold yourself. And when you truly hold yourself, authentically and unwaveringly, the world can no longer shake you. Becoming untouchable. There comes a moment in your life when you realize you cannot keep living as the version of yourself that everyone else has shaped, expected, or benefited from. A moment when you see with the painful clarity that the person you have been, accommodating, forgiving, endlessly patient, endlessly available, cannot carry you into the life you want. That version of you survived, yes. That version of you gave everything they could, but that version of you paid a price for it. And now, standing on the edge of everything you are becoming, you feel the quiet truth rising inside you. You cannot remain who you were and expect your life to change. This is the moment the untouchable self begins to form. Not a colder self, not an arrogant self, but a self that finally understands the value of its own existence. A self no longer defined by what others want, what others feel, what others take, or what others think. It is a self grounded in something unshakable. Self-respect, self-preservation, and self-loyalty. It is a self that has lived through seasons of betrayal, silence, loss, and disappointment, and has learned that the only way to never be broken the same way again is to stop abandoning itself for the sake of belonging. Becoming untouchable is not about building walls. It is about removing doors that were never meant to be open. It is about realizing that not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your effort, your vulnerability, or your forgiveness. You begin to understand that people earn their place in your life by how they show up, not by how loudly they demand to stay. You stop offering unlimited emotional credit to people who never repay what they take. You stop being the refuge for those who never provided shelter for you. You stop weaving excuses for behavior that has already drained you too many times. And in this process, something inside you shifts. You begin to rise not with fury, but with clarity, not with arrogance, but with certainty, not by force, but by alignment. You stop explaining yourself because you understand that people who truly see you don't need explanations, and those who demand them have already decided not to understand you. You stop apologizing for your standards because you finally recognize that standards are not restrictions. They are filters. They are the guardians of your peace, your energy, your identity. They are the architecture of a life built with intention, not desperation. And slowly, you stop trying to save people from the consequences of their own actions. You stop shrinking your power just to make others comfortable. You stop tolerating chaos just to avoid looking difficult. You stop settling for almost love, almost effort, almost respect. If someone cannot meet you where you stand, you no longer lower yourself to meet them where they are. You simply walk away, not angrily, not dramatically, quietly, confidently, decisively. This is the essence of becoming untouchable, not invincible, but unmanipulable, not unloving, but unexploitable, not unfeeling, but unshakable. There is a profound peace that comes with this transformation. You wake up one day and realize you are no longer carrying guilt for prioritizing your well-being. You are no longer torn apart by the fear of losing people who would not hesitate to lose you. You no longer accept emotional crumbs from those who feast on your generosity. You begin to understand that solitude is not loneliness. It is a sanctuary. It is a place where your thoughts return to you uncorrupted, a place where your heart can breathe without being pulled or stretched by everyone else's needs. And in that sanctuary, you rebuild yourself piece by piece, not into a tougher version, but into a truer one. You rediscover the parts of yourself that were buried under obligations, expectation, and emotional compromises. You rediscover your strength, not as a reaction, but as a foundation. You rediscover your worth, not as something others confirm, but as something you embody. People begin to sense this change. They feel it before they understand it. They notice the calm in your voice, the certainty in your choices, the steadiness in your presence. You're not louder, but you're clearer. You're not harder, but you're firmer. You're not more emotional, but you're more aligned. People who once relied on guilt to control you find that guilt no longer works. People who once used silence to manipulate you find that silence no longer affects you. People who once tested your boundaries find that the boundaries now test them. Some people will respect this new version of you. Others will resent it. But the resentment only reveals who benefited from your lack of boundaries. And that is knowledge worth having. This is also the stage where you finally understand something transformative. You do not need everyone. You do not need universal approval, universal acceptance, or universal understanding. You only need alignment with yourself, with your values, with your truth. When you reach that point, you stop chasing people who drain you. You stop explaining your worth to people who are determined not to see it. You stop fighting to be chosen by people who lack the capacity to appreciate you. You no longer treat temporary people like permanent anchors. Becoming untouchable means you no longer negotiate with disrespect. You no longer justify mistreatment. You no longer confuse patience with self-abandonment. You no longer participate in conversations that insult your intelligence. You no longer tolerate behaviors that disrupt your peace. You no longer dance between who you are and who someone else wants you to be. Your life becomes lighter, not because you have fewer people in it, but because you finally have the right people in it. People who value you not for what you give, but for who you are. People who respect your boundaries not because you demand it, but because they operate with integrity. People who love you in ways that don't cost you your self-respect. And it is in this newfound clarity that you begin to see the world differently. You no longer move with insecurity. You move with intention. You no longer react from fear. You respond from strength. You no longer wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. This is the freedom you've been seeking all along. Not the freedom from pain, but the freedom from repetition. The freedom from shrinking. The freedom from the emotional debts you once paid on behalf of others. The freedom from living as an echo of other people's expectations instead of the voice of your own truth. And as you stand in this new identity, the untouchable identity, you begin to realize that this is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of living with dignity, the beginning of giving with intention, the beginning of choosing relationships with discernment, the beginning of walking into every room without needing permission to be your full self. If you've made it this far, Take a moment now to support the message and the mission behind it. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment to share your reflections and help this community grow. Your support allows videos like this to continue, videos that remind you of the strength you already have and the power you are becoming. Thank you for being part of this journey, because becoming untouchable is not a destination. It is a practice. It is a way of moving through the world with unshakable clarity and unbreakable self-respect. And every step you take into this version of yourself reinforces a truth you once struggled to believe. You are enough. You have always been enough. And now finally you are learning to live like it.